Hi, everybody, and welcome to Dutch Mentor. Welcome back to the Smart Performance Podcast, where S stands for self-care, M for mindful growth, A for adaptive problem-solving, R for rhythmic operation, and T, of course, we're building a thriving community, P for performance. I'm really happy to have Artie here with me. We're going to be talking about an area that fits right into the problem-solving part of this smart app. It is something that we are not necessarily very good at. We often chase our tails and make it very confusing and make a big mess out of it. And of course, the back end, we don't solve much of anything. Let's forget about making it a sustainable outcome where real growth or cost effectiveness or transformation comes from. So I'm happy to have Artie here. We're going to dive into that topic. And again, it will always be actionable. So today you can take an action on this. And if you don't, we all know that the conversation will be forgotten by tomorrow morning. Artie, thank you very much for being here today, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Great. Great to be with you. I'm with a company called Pantera Networks, and we create business communication solutions that combine unified communications, collaborations, and content sharing through an app called Streams.ai. So great to be with you.
Thank you for laying that out. And obviously, whenever you're working in that world, problem solving is at the core of what you do. And often customers and people can make a chaos out of those types of things. So establish a foundation of our conversation around what is the true problem statement? What is it that you have seen and experienced, and why we should talk about this, because there's maybe a better way of doing it.
Well, I think that a lot of times when you create companies or you're building companies, you're trying to figure out what drives the product. Is the product driven by engineers within your company or by people within your company, or is it driven by customers, by the people who are actually buying your product and implementing your product and using your product? And I think, a lot of it is trying to figure out that balance between those two approaches. And what we do at Pantera is we're very customer obsessed, customer oriented. So we love to talk with our customers, interact with our customers, really pick their brains. They really understand the problem. They understand how to make their own money, how to make their companies go, and they really want solutions, not just technology, to help them solve their problems.
So it's not uncommon for customers to throw 1,000 things at at the wall and hoping that something will stick, right? And that's often where the chaos comes from, is that they have a whole lot of problems and not necessarily know exactly what it is that they want to work on. So tell me about your process as you go into a deep listening session and trying to understand, the company that you're working with, and to get to the problem you try to solve and how to fine tune that.
Yeah, so a lot of times you run into the issue of essentially getting input from a customer and then having engineers take that input and try to what we call gold plate the solution and come up with niche features here and adding features there, and that effectively becomes a gold plated solution that never comes out. So what we do at Pantera and what I think a lot of successful companies do is actually spend a lot more time upfront to create a very well thought out, very detailed product requirements document. And there are a lot of AI tools available now, from Figma to Lovable to Claude, which allow you to essentially prototype very quickly, almost in real time with the customer, a framework of what the product should be. But you need to go deeper than the framework to create a very comprehensive product requirements document down to the literally every screen, every function, every feature. Spending the time up front and getting the buy-in from all of the parties, including customers, engineering, marketing, sales, really will result in much less time in development and much less time in testing and redeploying and gold plating the product. So we really encourage to spend that upfront time and then define your timelines. Define, how much time is going to take to develop the product, to get it into alpha, to get it into beta, to get it into production, and really try to adhere to those timelines. And then the last thing that we really encourage at Pantera, and it's one of our guiding principles, is to encourage management to microstatus and not micromanage. There's a big difference between the two. When managers are micromanaging, that means they're taking away the responsibility and accountability for the low-level engineers that are actually tasked to implement the capabilities in the product. When you're microstatusing, you're just asking for the updates and the information, and then you turn it around and let those engineers make the actual decisions. But if they know that you're getting status information constantly, that keeps them focused and in line to develop and deliver on time.
So on that last piece, because you get a lot of pushback. Well, how many times do I need to report? Every time I need to report, that's 10 minutes or 20, 30 minutes. That's time I should be sitting behind a computer working and being productive. Go back to why is it so critically important to have that cadence of accountability built into it in order to get the best outcome that is sustainable over time?
That's a great question. I think, it really takes both sides trusting each other because if an engineer feels that the microstatusing is more like micromanagement, then they will essentially not want to give the information freely and keep the information flowing up the chain freely. If management is more prone to actually micromanaging instead of microstatusing, then again, it destroys trust. So it's really incumbent on both sides, management and engineers, to trust each other that microstatusing is important because the biggest thing that derails companies when developing product is surprises. So if management is surprised because there's a delay in the product or because there's a feature missing or because some particular capability is not implemented, that can destroy companies. It can certainly impact revenue in a company and the financials of a company and the strategic nature of competitiveness of that company. So you really need to be able to have management with trust of the engineers microstatus. In other words, tell me what's going on, the good, the bad, the ugly. Keep me informed and I can better help you engineers develop, get resources to meet the timelines and the tasks that are at hand.
Yeah, listen, nothing kills creativity quicker than over controlling the engineer, right? It is like
Correct.
people need to be able to think outside of the box. So I refer to this as, we need to have the right people in the right roles. We need to be unified in our vision to what the outcome is after you do that really deep dive that you talked about. And then is that, you need to be able to measure and have that cadence of accountability in order to get to the action plans that actually going to deliver. It's a funny analogy for, it's like almost asking, why don't you go build a skyscraper? And then after the fact, we'll bring the architect in and we'll have him design how we keep the thing standing up. And that's where often we go wrong. Right? You need to do your A, B, and C's, not C, B, and A to get a product out there in the most efficient manner. So I love that. So I want to go back to the term gold plating because I think that is something that. So tell me what the term means and why does that lead to sustainable outcomes?
So gold plating is when you take an original product design and then you start, as you implement the product, somebody decides, oh, we need to add a new feature. And then somebody decides we need to add another new feature and another new feature. And what happens is the product over time becomes much more than what it originally was intended to be. And, there are times when that could be good, one or two adjustments. And I'll get into how you make great decisions over time. But in general, when it becomes out of control, then that's when you use the term gold plating. The product is starting to become gold plated. And it really can result in delaying of the whole product from actually getting into production, and ultimately can impact the revenue of the company, the strategic timelines of the company, and really that can be disastrous for a company. So you really have to control sort of this ongoing gold plating capability risk.
Yeah. It is, it's the same thing as that inch wide, a mile deep, rather than an inch deep and a mile wide, right? If the project is not scoped correctly, often the outcome is. So we've well established the problem statement, and I think that most people should be able to identify with that. So let's go to the solution part. Let's talk a little bit about making great decisions.
Well, it's one of our, we have sort of three key philosophies or guidelines, and one of them is, how do you make great decisions? It's very difficult to make great decisions all the time, but I think if you carry on with this philosophy, the way you make great decisions is you make good decisions and you refine them over time. So that's really two parts. The first part is, you know, no decision is by definition a bad decision. So don't do paralysis by analysis. Really try to make the best decision you can. But the second part of that philosophy is refine them over time. So all too often, engineers and really anybody in the company can get stagnant. They can make a decision and then try to basically drive that decision forward without taking any more input on that decision. So the way you make great decisions is you make that decision and then keep continuously reevaluating, keep continuously taking input. I can't tell you how many times, countless times, where I've made collective decisions with a company, but we continue to take input from competitors, from technology evolution, and we refine that decision over time. And many times the outcome is either slightly different from the original decision, or it could be 180 degrees different from the original decision. But by definition, the end result is a great decision because you've made a decision and you've refined it over time.
Yeah, that's what we call the PDCA cycle, right? Is that it's just continuous iterations of getting better. So it's really going from good to great.
Absolutely. That's how you
Keep,
make a good decision and turn it into a great decision.
yeah, and the key is, of course, to keep the team focused, because people love to get together and they go into the weeds and nothing comes out of it, right? Or they go outside of the scope of the original project and widen it to the extent that it becomes diluted, and then they can't. So I love the fact that the promise. I love the fact that you talk about the right pathway, you're making great decisions. Of course, sustainability in the back end becomes critically important. So tell me a little bit about your take on how can you make now a problem that you go from good to great, so it's continuous iterating, but how can you sustain the momentum and not fall back or let the ball roll down the hill, so to speak?
Well, I think that goes to one of our other philosophies or guidelines in the company, which is um, encourage passion, discourage emotion. So passion is one of our most important human characteristics or qualities that can drive innovation. When you're passionate about something, about your job, about your industry, about technology, you will relentlessly pursue um, greatness in that area. So you will continually evolve. You will continually look for new horizons, new strategies, new directions. And so we always encourage passion. Passion is the one thing we look for in virtually every one of our employees. But unchecked passion can become emotional. And what we mean by that is a great example is if you're having a debate between two particular ideas and you're writing them on the chalkboard, passion is about directing your energy towards what's on that chalkboard. Emotion is when you direct it towards the other person, when it becomes personal. And emotion is something that actually is a negative characteristic or negative quality when it comes to building companies. you really want to encourage passion and discourage emotion. And if you're encouraging passion and people are passionate, you will always evolve. You will continuously evolve the company. You'll continuously look for the best solutions. You'll continuously integrate new technologies, new capabilities that are coming down the pike, like artificial intelligence. And it's really because of that human quality of passion that really will drive innovation.
I love the point. I mean, it's really good conversation today about that. And we laid out the problem. We laid out the process for continuous improvement, and laid out the back end and how to build these sustainable programs, and of course build teams to high performance. Artie, where can people find you?
You can find us at our website, www.panteranetworks.com. It's all one word. And there you'll find certainly a lot of information about our Streams.ai business communications product and solution and service. But you'll also find information about new technologies such as artificial intelligence and how to make successful businesses grow.
Excellent. And give me a parting thought, something that is either actionable or the listeners will think about.
You know, I talked about our three kind of philosophies: encourage passion, discourage emotion, encourage microstatusing, discourage micromanagement, and how you make great decisions, which is making good decisions and refine them over time. At Pantera, we live by those three philosophies, and I think as your audience, if possible, can embrace one, two, or even all three of those as they're building their companies, I think it will increase the likelihood of success and happiness in what you're doing, which is an important human quality and characteristic as well.
I think that is rock solid advice, and I think that to the audience again, listening to this is one thing. Nodding your head in agreement is great, but it means nothing unless you take a meaningful action as well. So keep are these advice. Embrace at least one, if not all three of these philosophies. You cannot go wrong, right? There's a proven methodology and outcome, with these philosophies. But again, if you don't take meaningful action, it's all for nothing. Go to my website, dutchmentor.com. You'll find lots of very AI interactive apps that allows you to go on this journey and, of course, ask questions along the way. Stay curious, think outside of the box. And Artie, thank you very much for joining me on the show today. I really appreciate you. And again, to the audience, take action. Talk to you soon.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.